Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely fascinating source text that tackles a massive question. How did human thought and societal control actually begin? We're going to be looking objectively at how this text contrasts traditional religious views of human intellect and morality with what it calls the Luciferian philosophy. It's a wild journey that traces the concept of knowledge all the way from ancient mythology right up to the structures running our modern society. So let's map out these complex historical claims and break them down step by step. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the dawn of human intellect, move on to comparing two philosophies, explore the metaphor of fire, examine knowledge as a control mechanism, and finally reveal the ultimate secret. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the dawn of human intellect and escaping instinct. So, according to our source material, if we really want to grasp modern power dynamics, we've got to rewind all the way back to the very beginning. The author argues there was this massive stretch of history where early humans basically just operated on pure instinct. They weren't thinking critically, they were just surviving, totally unaware of complex concepts like good and evil. To paint a picture of this, the speaker uses the biblical Garden of Eden as a baseline. It describes a time when early humans were just, caretakers in nature. They were completely unburdened by the heavy weight of moral choices or original independent thought. Now, here's what's actually super interesting about this. You've got two completely opposite worldviews here, traditional biblical frameworks on one hand and the teachings of hidden mystery schools on the other. But they both fundamentally agree on this initial state of mankind. They both acknowledge this age of innocence as a factual starting point, where humanity lacked intellect and just existed in raw harmony with nature. So the big disagreement, as we're about to see, isn't about where we started. It's about how and ultimately why we left that unthinking state behind in the first place. Moving right along to Section 2, comparing two philosophies, specifically the fall versus the gift. And this right here, this is the absolute core of our explainer today. We're looking at a massive philosophical divide regarding human intellect and morality. On one side, traditional religious perspectives, like the biblical narrative, view gaining intellect, eating from the tree of knowledge, as a direct act of disobedience against God. In this camp, intellect was literally a forbidden fruit. Taking it was the fall of man, a tragedy that brought about human suffering, mortality, and subjugation. But flip the coin, and the source details what it calls the Luciferian philosophy, which is taught within mystery schools and occult groups. In their view, early humans were essentially being held prisoner by a vindictive creator. So acquiring intellect wasn't a fall at all. No way. It was the ultimate liberation. It was a gift that freed humanity, allowing man to conquer nature, figure out his own morality, and set himself on a path to eventually perfect himself and become a god. Now hold on a second, because we really need to clarify the term Luciferian here. The text explicitly states that people who follow this philosophy, they don't actually believe in a literal entity called Lucifer or a devil or a god for that matter. They are strictly atheists and humanists. To them, this whole story is just a powerful metaphor for human awakening. In their universe, man himself is the only potential god, and intellect is the vehicle you use to reach that divine state. Their religion is, quite simply, humanity's unrestrained potential. Okay, Section 3. The metaphor of fire, mythology, and technology. To really get where the speaker is coming from, picture this. Imagine early humans huddled in the pitch black, freezing, absolutely terrified of the wild beasts roaring out in the night. The discovery of fire changed literally everything about survival. But if you look at ancient myths across all these different cultures, fire wasn't just stumbled upon. It was always brought or gifted to humanity by some higher source. The source points out that ancient myths actually encode this whole transfer of intellect perfectly. Take Prometheus from Greek mythology, the guy who stole fire from the gods to give to mankind, and the metaphor of Lucifer, which, by the way, literally translates to the light bringer. The text argues these are essentially the exact same symbol. They both represent the bringer of this world-altering gift, and it's often represented in lore as a bolt of lightning striking a tree, the initial spark that yanked humanity right out of the Dark Ages. Because this fire wasn't just, physical warmth, it's a profound metaphor for knowledge and intellect. Without this first spark of original thought, zero complex human societies could have ever formed. From this one single thing, the intellect to harness fire, humanity went on to create industry, culture, science, and the entire modern world. The mystery schools revere this initial spark as the true savior of mankind. It's what saved us from the terrors of blind ignorance. That brings us to Section 4. Knowledge as a control mechanism and the birth of power. So the speaker lays out this totally fascinating three-step progression of how power actually started. Step 1. An early human figures out how to keep a lightning-struck branch burning. He now possesses a technology, a specialized knowledge, that literally no one else in his tribe has. Step 2. Instead of just sharing how it works with everybody, he shrouds it in ceremony. He turns the fire into a mystery for the people who just don't understand the mechanics behind it. And then, step 3, by strictly controlling who gets access to this mystery, he basically becomes the first king, the first scientist, and the first priest all rolled into one. The very first ruling priesthood is born directly out of hoarding hidden knowledge. This leads to one of the boldest claims in the text. The idea that visible rulers, the kings and queens you see sitting on thrones, have historically just existed at the whim of the priesthood, hiding in the shadows. Why? Because the priesthood controls the mysteries. Hidden knowledge is leveraged as a literal technology to control the masses. It operates on the basic principle that a mystery will always hold sway over people who are kept in the dark. If a king wasn't useful anymore, well, the true power structure would just swap him out. And finally, Section 5, the ultimate secret revealed, the modern battlefield. So, pulling this all into the present day, the source asserts that the highest levels of these modern fraternal orders, these mystery schools, have some very specific, highly coordinated goals for global control right now. And they're intense. The text claims they want to destroy all existing religions, so only their humanist philosophy remains, destroy all existing governments to establish their own rule, and shackle the general public in a system of eternal oppressive debt. The ultimate goal here is to keep the masses chained to a system where they actually believe they're perfectly happy while being completely and utterly controlled. But here's the kicker. The speaker doesn't think these controllers are some distant, cartoonish villains plotting in a secret bunker somewhere. Nope. The text asserts that the real danger is how everyday and pervasive these mystery schools actually are. The initiates are regular people. It's your uncle, your aunt, the people in your community who happen to belong to these fraternal orders. They operate locally and globally, and they maintain their control simply by keeping the uninitiated completely in the dark about their true philosophy and their massive societal goals. So wrapping up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Why do these historical theories about hidden knowledge and societal control still captivate us so much today? Whether you view this as an accurate history of hidden power or just a really complex modern mythology, this stark contrast, viewing intellect as either a tragic moral fall or a liberating humanist gift, absolutely continues to shape how we view authority and freedom today. Why does the idea of a hidden priesthood controlling us through hoarded knowledge hit so hard? It forces us to ask how much of our society is built on transparent truth, and how much is still governed by the ancient power of the mystery. Thanks so much for exploring these concepts with us today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.